Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike, and today we are going to take a look at ERC 404s. What are they? How do you get to them? What do you do with them? And what use cases are there? Now, we might be getting a little bit too old for this Web3 stuff. In my day, a 404 was a HTTP error, or it was an idiot, whichever way you wanted to look at it. So fear not. Wangton has come to the rescue. Now, I'm going to leave a link to his account down below this thread, so make sure to go and give him a follow. He is the Threads guy. So in a nutshell, ERC 404 combines two different types of tokens. ERC 20 tokens, which are fungible tokens, and ERC 721 tokens, which are non-fungible tokens. And this is what we would call a hybrid approach, a semi-fungible token. And this allows for something very exciting: fractionalized ownership of different assets. Now, the example that Wangton gives is, imagine owning an NFT that you would be able to fractionalize and sell portions of. Conversely, if you buy enough parts of the NFT, you would be able to mint it. This is a revolutionary new way of looking at NFTs and fractionalized ownership. Now, there are many upsides and downsides to ERC 404 tokens. Let's look at some of the benefits. The first one is, of course, liquidity. If you own a $100,000 or a $1,000 NFT and you can fractionalize it, you will actually be able to sell off pieces of that NFT. Additionally, you might not be able to afford to buy a very expensive $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 NFT, but what you might be able to do is own a fraction of it. So you might be able to own 1,000th or 1/500th of a very expensive NFT that will only cost you $30 or $40. And breaking something down into its parts allows for more dynamic trading. You might list your very expensive NFT on OpenSea, for example, and it might take months to sell. Now, there are some downsides to ERC 404 tokens, and they really revolve around the lack of knowledge of the people using them. First of all, there will be more gas fees associated with a fractionalized asset because there's simply more of them to move around. Secondly, people might not fully understand what these tokens are and how to use them. They might think by buying a fractionalized piece of art that they own the art, when in fact they don't. They only own a percentage of the art. Moving on then to a really nice touch by Wangton. He's given some examples of how this could be used today. First of all, he talks about real-world assets, artwork in the real world. We've seen many examples of NFTs being produced where you are buying into the community, but you're not holding the physical piece of art. You're buying into a fan club, if you like. In this example, you would be able to fractionalize a Rembrandt or a Dali or something similar. And by owning a fraction of that, you own a fraction of that physical piece of art. Secondly then is gaming. There are thousands of games out there, but very few in Web3. If you take Star Atlas, for example, on Solana, there are some Titan class ships which are worth $200,000 to $300,000. If that was broken up in an ERC 404 token, for example, you would be able to own 1,000th or a 10,000th of that ship, and all of the rewards generated by that ship would be broken down and distributed amongst the owners. Real estate is another good example that Wangton uses. He talks about the ability to break up offices or houses into fractionalized 404s. Again, there's a lot of legal work around things like that, but it is still a possibility. And finally, the community. You would be able to own a fraction of your community. If your community has projects, if it has bots, if it has its own token, if it has its own DEX, for example, then you would own a fraction of that. It would be like being a member of the club. By holding the 404, you would be able to get access to the utility behind the paywall. And of course, you would get a percentage of the fees generated by the community. So the future is bright for 404s. And indeed, as Wangton says, it is a paradigm shift. We have been so used to ERC 721s and ERC 20s that now we have a hybrid version. The opportunities are indeed endless. And where are 404s going to take us? We don't know because they haven't been built yet. One of the things that we are always trying to do is find the tip of the curve. And one example of this is WolfSwap. They are launching their new 404 token on the 17th of September. And being part of that project will give you a percentage of the fees generated by WolfSwap. What could be better? So as far as Wangtung is concerned, the future is rosy and bright. If the likes of Cronos can tap into this, their community should see the benefits long term. Although it's an ERC standard, Cronos ZKM can tap into it. So the future is bright for everybody in that community. And moving forward, I can see a lot more of these being produced. And a few final words from me. This video wouldn't be possible without Wangtung's incredibly in-depth thread that he put up on Twitter. I have contacted him and I have made it with his blessing. We are, of course, both massive fans of WolfSwap, and I have mentioned that very briefly in this video. They have their own launch going on, which, as I've said, is the 17th of September. But stay in touch with all of the news on Cronos by going over to Build on Cronos and giving them a follow. All the daily news on Cronos is on there. And of course, make sure to follow Wangtung and of course, Crypto Warehouse. With all that being said, you guys have been great. I have been Mike. Until the next video, goodbye.